think the biggest part of it, Joe, is being disciplined. You know, like if you're coming and playing, and it doesn't matter to me what level it is, because if I'm playing tiddlywinks or I'm playing docile, I want to win, and I'm going to be disciplined enough to find a way to do it.
Welcome to the Next Level Podcast. And the purpose of these podcasts is to share elements that resonate with our audience and really to challenge you all in your existing perspective, or hopefully adding to your perspective, especially in the areas of mindset and striving to perform at the best level, or what we would call high performance. The folks that we want to bring onto this podcast are folks themselves that are trying to find their next level or are competing at the next level. And it's people that are really striving to reach their own maximum ability within their craft. And we're really trying to find people across the spectrum. So intentionally, we're going to be interviewing people who are competing at the world level, but also people at professional and amateur level and the scholastic and youth levels. Our first guest is Sean Morgan, who was recently named the head coach of Duluth FC. And Sean is a former MPSL player himself for 3 years and competed at the collegiate level for 4 years and was a standout college student athlete. Before he was here, Sean grew up in Belfast, Northern Ireland, and made the transition 7 or 8 years ago to really take on the next chapter of his life when he came here to the States. And now he's very excited, and you can hear this in his voice. He's very excited to take on the next chapter, which is coaching a high-level amateur team. And why I love this conversation is because you can really hear his passion for the game and for coaching, and really striving to help young people become their best and grow through his program. You hear him talk about his core principles of really using a blend of discipline and enjoyment in the training environment, on match day, and really throughout a season. And I think maybe one of the greatest takeaways is just the energy that Sean brings to his craft, whether that was as a player and now really taking on a head coaching role. So we all really enjoyed this opportunity to interview Sean, and I hope you all do. So welcome again to Next Level Podcast with Sean Morgan.
All right, we're interviewing Sean Morgan today, and Sean was born in Belfast, Ireland. Did I pronounce that right? Yeah. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know much about Belfast, Ireland, so Sean's going to have to tell us a bit more about that in a second. He came over to the Twin Ports after just growing up, came over for college, went to College of St. Scholastica. I believe you got a communications major?
Yeah, that's correct.
Played some soccer for the Saints, pretty successful career. His sophomore, junior, and senior year, he had over 20 assists each season, which is, if you don't know, that's pretty impressive. I believe you had 12 goals too your sophomore year, or your junior year?
Yeah, and then not as many seniors.
Yeah, either way, that's
finish strong.
That's a huge season. I mean, if you, I would imagine your freshman year were feeling out the scene, but I mean, you had a pretty strong career there. After you graduated, it sounds like you started working at the building we're in. Play a little bit for Duluth FC. Kind of got your feet in the Twin Ports. You're just, I don't know how recently you were married, but you just recently got a dog. All settled into the Twin Ports, and anything I missed that people would be like, oh, I need to know that.
Kind of freaking me out about how much you know about your life.
He does that, man.
Well prepared.
Yeah.
No, everything you said spot on.
Awesome. Yeah. So let's start in Belfast, Ireland. I know nothing about the area other than I remember in chemistry we learned about Kelvin, the guy who came up with absolute zero, tons of other things, which is probably not what most people know about Belfast, Ireland. So tell us a little bit about growing up in the capital of Northern Ireland, I believe.
Yeah. So obviously, depending on what side of the divide you're from, you'd class it as being Northern Ireland or Ireland. But fortunately, those days are long gone. It's definitely moved on in the last 15, 20 years.
Do you consider yourself Irish? Or
yeah, Irish? I do, yeah. So it falls like on the religious kind of divide of it. But I mean, at this point in my life, like I've always classed myself as being from Ireland, the Republic or whatever. But you know, I still, at the end of the day, like, I'm from Northern Ireland, and you know, it's his own country, and I still have, you know, I'd watch the football team and things like that, and I want the football team to do well, sort of thing. So it's not like a massive thing within my own life. But no, growing up, Belfast is a nice place. Like, it's really working class city, and you know, a lot of really good footballers out of Belfast, and a lot of teams to play for. And no, I mean, I enjoyed growing up there and played for a couple of boys teams, and then kind of worked my way up to play for an Irish League team before I left. And
yeah, so you played in the U18 Northern Ireland U squad, I believe.
Yeah, so I made the schoolboy team. So a lot of boys, whenever they're growing up, will go to England, you know, and join academies and join clubs and get scouted, and they have their own kind of like Northern Ireland setup, so to speak. But then for ones that are still in school and maybe play for like semi-pro clubs at home, then there's like, it's technically under the same governing body, but it's just for schoolboys, ones that are still studying. So I was on the squad for a year, only played a couple of games, was cut for a couple of games, trained, but played in 2 games, I think. Got a cap and stuff like that. So
impressive is that to an American who has no idea about the soccer scene in Europe?
Well,
I mean, if I came in and had a cap for the USA U18 team, people would be like, "Whoa, big dog over here!" Like,
no, I mean, it's a you get whittled down. You know, like you're coming out of a pool of hundreds of players from all over the country, and you know, and they whittle it down to 23 players essentially, you know. So yeah, it was a big deal. It seemed like a big deal at the time, and you know, I wish I had have maybe, you know, pushed on a little bit, or my form was a little bit better at that time when I was playing, and maybe could have advanced a little bit more. But it was a really good experience, like getting to travel with team.
Played a little better, Joe Mooney might have recruited you.
There we go.
I'm just kidding. So growing up, soccer was, I imagine, most, if a big part of your life. What else were you doing growing up? What is common things? What do you do as a youth boy in Belfast, Ireland, growing up, that would, something you look back on that people in America, especially the Twin Ports area where we're recording this, have no idea, like Gaelic football, for instance? I don't think most Americans have any idea what that is. I don't know if I'm even pronouncing that right.
No, if you're not playing sport, like, there doesn't say, I mean, I never experienced the other side of it, but if I had to say, like, if you're not playing sport, you're probably on the drink at a pretty young age.
All right.
But Gaelic's really, really big at home. I played Gaelic growing up and played hurling, so they're like 2 traditional sports. So I played both of those, and then soccer, and I started off playing soccer when I was 4. Like, my dad's football mad, and used to go watch him play on Saturday afternoons and stuff, and kind of just, you know, caught the bug through that. And then depending on the school you go to, like, they'll kind of prioritise soccer or Gaelic, and I went to a Gaelic school, so for a while, like in my early teenage years, I was probably a lot more into Gaelic football than I was into soccer. And then it kind of switched when I was 14, 15. I ended up, one of the guys at the local boys club, Stevie Milburn, took me and got me like a trial at a U17 team, Lisburn Distillery, and they had like their own academy, and they were like an Irish league, so it was people getting paid to play, you know. It was probably as close to professional as what you could get level wise. Obviously nowhere near like the English level or championship or whatever, but still a good level to be playing at. So he took me over there when I was 14, and I ended up playing for a couple of years, and I was really young, if I remember, compared to a lot of the boys. Like, I was 14, 15 playing U18, and it was, you know, you feel like the real
bigger, or just
kid.
that?
No, I was
just a good dude.
I think I was just good at that time of my life. And
all right.
I was, you know, I could play, I think, and that's what got me there. And I ended up, I think, for a couple of years with the youth team, being captain when I was like 14, 15, and it's very strange thinking back, you know, because you're 2-3 years younger, and at that age there's a massive difference in those 2-3 years. So.
Did you feel like the older guys respected you as a younger captain, or was there a lot of like, oh, I'm older than you, but you're better than me?
No, I mean, for from what I remember anyway, like everyone was really open, and we had a good squad of boys. Like people used to push each other on, and I don't think we made it to a couple of finals, but we never won the league or anything. But we never got, we were really competitive. Yeah. And it was a pathway to get boys into, playing full-time football or, being part of the first team or reserves, and I managed to climb the ladder fairly quickly. Yeah. Over the years I was there.
How common do people climb that ladder? Or is it kind of like people just drop off all the time, and if you stick with it long enough?
Yeah, I mean, it just. I mean, I know there's a lot of talented boys at home that could have been at that level when they were 18, 19 and just lost motivation or went down the wrong track or hanging out with the wrong people or get on the beer, and that's the end of it. But I mean, even to make it to that level, like I've got some friends and stuff that are playing in the Irish League now. It takes like a massive amount of dedication to get there. You know, like you're training 3-4 nights a week and maybe 2 games on a weekend, and then at that age you're still going to school and maybe you're playing for a school team as well, and it's flat out. It's a really big commitment. Like you wouldn't be going out drinking on a Friday and playing a game on a Saturday at that level, so but it was good. I think that's what allowed me to get to where I've been able to get to in my life, and in terms of getting over to the States, but having that drive from an early age to kind of push yourself and climb the ladder.
Yeah, so obviously you came over to the States for school as well as soccer. Yeah. Was that because school's also an important part of your life, or were you coming over?
I mean, whenever I was like 16, 17, at 16 you're allowed to leave school and you can go do a trade and go to trade school or whatever at home, and I wanted to be a plumber. Okay. So I was going to quit school and just be a plumber and then play football at home, and my dad actually had said, you need to get an education, continue on with school, like you can be a plumber in 2 years if you want and reevaluate, and within that 2 years, I think I was 16, I've got family living in St. Paul, and then I had my auntie, my mum's sister.
Paul, Minnesota?
Yeah, okay. So my uncle lives down there, and my aunt lived in Connecticut. She was my godmother. I think I must have been 15, 16. Yeah. But I'd never been to the States before.
Okay. I think I've been doing a lot of traveling vacation. At all at that point?
Not really, no. I mean, we'd been on holiday maybe once, I think, to Europe, and I think maybe we'd gone to Orlando. There's the first real family vacation like a couple of years previously, but that was, she passed away and I flew out to the funeral, and that I remember when I landed in New York and taking the train up to, I think it's Hartford or New Haven, Connecticut, like kind of looking out the window and seeing all the buildings and seeing what the States is kind of like. That's when I realised like that's what I wanted to do. Yeah.
Why the Twin Ports? Specifically,
no one told me it was going to be so cold. No, I mean, going through the process, like I was speaking to colleges for the guts of 18 months, and like colleges all over the States, and had a couple of offers from colleges in Florida, but with fair skin, I wasn't going to survive down there. Yeah. And then when Duluth came, Barry called me every week for months, like religiously, and people just want to feel wanted when they're younger, and and I think that was a massive part of what got me to come here, was him just being relentless and calling me. And
Barry would have been your coach.
So Barry at Scholastica, and then the kind of decision I guess ultimately was like Barry, and then having family in St. Paul, like it just made life 10 times easier and a lot easier to like acclimatise, knowing that people are only 2 hours away if something did happen. So it worked out really well to move here versus anywhere else.
Yeah, and when you came here, did you come right to Duluth? Did you spend some time in the cities, Twin Cities, being that, or did you just...
No, got straight out. Our flight, we flew into New York, flight was delayed spent a night in New York, flew here, Uncle picked me and Ben Cullen up and drove us straight to college the next morning.
So did you know Ben at that point?
So me and Ben, like, we grew up within 15 minutes of each other, and I knew like all the people that he had hung around with and his friends, but we'd never came across each other. So it was like really, really strange. I went and spoke to him at the Christmas time, like 6 months before I would have come out here, had a chat with him. Remember seeing him in the newspaper the year he left to go. There was like a write-up in the newspaper about him and stuff, and then met each other at the airport and flew out, and that was it. Like, been best friends ever since that.
It's a small world, huh?
Yeah, it's crazy. It really is. The way things just lead into each other, but I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah. So, can you talk a little bit, Sean, about the kind of the transition from Northern Ireland to the U.S. and from a soccer perspective, like what was the biggest change for you during that time?
I was going to say the physicality of it, but at that point, like before I moved here, I'd been playing men's football or playing with men for 2 years. So I was used to like bigger, stronger people. But coming and starting at Scholastica and playing the first couple of games, like I think our first game was against Whitewater, and it was just like how athletic people were at that age. Like I came over when I was 18 and I wasn't, and still aren't, like I'm not a well built fella, like whenever I think I arrived I was $145 or something, like dead skinny, like no real beef on me, and just getting knocked around constantly, just the overall physicality and the pace of it. Like people Americans in general just run all day, like there's some engine in them, and they're a lot bigger and stronger at 18 years old. Like that was the two biggest things for me, just the physicality and the pace of it.
Sure.
But once you get settled in over a couple of months or a year or so of playing, I think it's fair to say probably it took me my whole freshman year to get used to it, and then from there you just kind of crack on. So
yeah, do you feel like you made the adjustment, and then which system do you like better in terms of just as a player?
At Scholastica we played a couple of different ones over the years. It kind of depended on the personnel, but the first year we played a 4-4-2, and I really liked that, just with the balance that it gave. We had it was me and Ben on the left. We had a left-footed centre back as well. So, there was a bit of service coming towards us. But
yeah, I remember those days well. I used to dread those days on the left side.
And then we went 4-3-3 for a couple of years. I really liked 4-3-3. I've been a winger. I think freshman year I played centre mid, and then being a lefty, you get shunted out left. But playing on the left of 4-3-3 and being more attacking, I really, really enjoyed that, especially having like Ben behind me bombing on, and we had a lot of attacking minded people playing on the team at that time, and left footers and right footers in good balance, and Kyle was playing as well. We had someone who could stick a ball in the net, so it was just putting in crosses and looking for his runs all the time. And yeah, 4-3-3 was really enjoyable because we had the opportunity to attack every game we played. There wasn't very many games where we had to sit in and defend, and yeah, it was enjoyable. I like 4-3-3 for the most part, and I think if we had added personnel at times, like playing 3-5-2 would have been enjoyable too. But you're trying to fit everybody into that 11, so
right, yeah. So what would you say, like throughout your time at Scholastica, what were some of your favorite moments as a player?
They're going to involve you, unfortunately.
How do I know you're going to say it? So for those listening in, obviously I coach at UW Superior. Shawnee played at St. Scholastica, so in the Twin Ports, that's the big rivalry. So we had some fun times and some not so fun times playing against Sean and his squad.
15-minute drive, maybe?
To between the schools, not even.
Yeah. It's close.
It's really close. No, a lot of good memories. We went down. Where did we go? Oh, we went. I think it was my junior year. Maybe it was the start of my senior year. We went and played Hope in Michigan, and we played an NAIA school. I can't remember who they were. And Hope were ranked at the time. Like Hope were like 12th in the nation or something, and we were like, I think we were 3 or 4-0 up at half time, and I remember that feeling. And then coming out the second half, I think they got a couple of quick goals and put us under a bit of pressure, and we ended up winning the game like 5-3 or 5-2 or something. But just traveling with your team, and like the whole way through school, whatever group we had, whether it was freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, everybody was really, really close. The camaraderie that we had, and like boys looking out for each other, and everybody really driven and training and all pulling towards the same goal. Like over the whole 4 years, that's a highlight for me. Like getting to know people and being really close to them. But in terms of games, like that Hope one stands out. And we beat Oshkosh away 3-2. They were ranked at the time. There was a 2-2 game that we played against Hughes at East. and somebody made a mistake and I chipped the keeper.
It was 1-1. I'll never forget that one. UWS was up 1-0 and I thought we were going to see the game out, and Matt Kelly, center back, sent one back to Matt Elder, the goalkeeper, and Sean slipped in between the two, and you chipped Elder at full pace. Like, that's one of my favorite memories and one of my worst memories as a coach, watching that ball drop in.
That's definitely a highlight, that one. And then I guess we over the 4 years, we were able to win the conference or whatever, and then go into playing nationals. And the biggest regret is not getting past the first round. Or we always played close games. We were never really beaten out by anybody. But it was always 1-0s or 2-1s. That's probably the biggest regret, not pushing past that point. But I feel last game in the UMAC senior year playoffs against Hughes, and that was I couldn't have imagined capping it 4 years off any better than that. Being on a winning team and scored 2 in the final and was MVP, I think, in the final of the tournament. Those are memories that I'll always have. Doesn't matter how old you get, and you can always look back on them fondly, and being able to win with that group of boys, and the memories that you have they last forever. So
you weren't lying, man. Some of your favorite memories are some of my worst nightmares. So
like a true midfielder that is always assisting his teammates, all of his memories were around the team result, even though you had a game in there with 7 assists in one game, which is mental, and that didn't come up. That's crazy.
Yeah, 7 assists. I think people look at that at home and think, he's not playing at a good level.
Says more about who you're playing than what you're doing. No, but obviously as a coach on the other side of it, for anyone listening in on this, Sean was one of the most terrific players that I think our squad ever had to play against, and I think it's something that took you on into your career into the NPSL, and I kind of want to hear a little bit more about that transition. Then after. A stellar career at St. Scholastica, getting to go on and play at a high amateur level after the fact. What was that like?
Really, the 3 years that I played it was definitely a step up from college in terms of the quality of player that you're coming up against and the teams, because I found maybe in the UMAC or different college teams, usually maybe you come up against a team and there's 1 or 2 boys that could be classed as weak links, but whenever you play in the NPSL, there's almost no weak links. Everybody's at a really good level technically. They know what they're doing. They know how to read the game. They can snuff out danger. They're a little bit stronger, bigger, than what they would be at college, because for the most part they're either older boys or boys that have just finished playing for 4 years,
Right.
The level was really, really good, but transitioning to it wasn't crazy different. The 4 years at Scholastica that we had, or the boys that ended up making that transition, and from UWS too, because the first year we had Gio and Brian Grand and that were playing, and Jonah, and I think everybody was able to slide across. If you were at that level and you could play, you could adjust and then play at the NPSL level. But I think the best part about NPSL and making that jump was how competitive every single game was. You're not coming up against, this is going to be an easy one today, or we can win 3 or 4 without ever really getting out of first or second gear. Every single game, you had to be on it. Individually, you had to make sure you won your battle. Collectively, as a team, you had to pull each other out of holes. And, there was no 4, 5, 6-0 games. They're all 2-1s, 3-2s, real tight. And I think over the 3 years or 4 years that I did play, and in the couple of years that we did have success, the biggest thing was, yes, we had good players, but second to that, the group that we had together, we're all so close-knit. And that makes a massive difference, especially because it was one of the years we had to win out. We had to win the last 5 games to even make playoffs or win the league, I think. Yeah. And count on all the results going our way. And the 5 games, I think 3 of them were away against good teams. Yeah. And I think the VSLT game, we went down and we were we were 1-0 down for the majority of it. Cal got sent off, and I think we pulled it back to 1-1, or it was 1-1 in the last 2-3 minutes, and we managed just to everybody digging in and grinding out a result, and came away for 2-1. And then we knew what we had to do in the last 2 games and managed to win them as well. But just having that relentless mindset, where everybody was pulling in the same direction. We wanted to win so badly that it hurt, and if you want something that much, 9 times out of 10 you're probably going to get it.
Yeah. I want to talk about that culture in a minute. I want to come back to that, but I want to stay just on you as a player. Do you feel that were you the best player, or playing at your best level when you were at Scholastica, or do you feel like you were playing at your best level the years following when you were playing with Duluth FC?
I mean, with Scholastica, for this, I had 3 really good seasons. My sophomore, junior, and then senior year with assists, and I was playing on the wing, and I really enjoyed that because you get to be a lot more creative, and you find yourself in 1v1s, and you can take people on and make things happen. In the years that I played at Duluth, for the most part, I ended up being centre mid, and I think as a player, one thing that I've had the whole way through my playing career, I felt like I've always had a drive, to get around and do the dirty work, and make tackles and cover ground and things like that. So to me it was like playing a different game, but I think I was able to play at a fairly similar standard over both different teams.
Yeah.
Scholastica was a lot different in terms of I was able to get at people and have shots and have crosses and set things up, and it's not, you're on the wing, so you only really have 1 or 2 people to worry about that might come and nick the ball off you. In the middle, there's just so much going on all the time, and I found it to be a lot, especially in the NPSL, you have to work your ass off to get up and down and cover ground, and maybe people look at the game and think, my wife Morgan had said to me, I think she took her and her granny came and watched and was like, sure, you barely touched the ball, you didn't really do anything. But in my head, I know what I did.
Right.
I know I was running around and covering ground and doing the dirty work, and I don't have a problem with that. I think everybody has to do that at some point. But no, it's just two different elements, I guess. Playing in the middle is a lot different to playing out wide, and but I really enjoy both of them.
Yeah.
I enjoy playing both positions. There's maybe a couple of times at Duluth where I fancied myself playing out wide versus in the middle, but
get that chance to isolate a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. Just get at people, and I've always, the whole way through, growing up in that, my dad always used to tell me don't be afraid to take people on. Defenders hate people driving at them, get the ball and drive at someone and make him commit and make a decision, and you're away, and I think I've tried to carry that on almost to my detriment at times. Run into trouble and lose the ball, but it's good. People enjoy watching people dribble with the ball. I think it's a lot more exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you like to kill that.
So, Sean, when you, as a player, when you were at your best, what was that like? I mean, if you maybe just take us through just a little bit of your mindset, what did that sound like? What did it feel like? What did it look like when you were, you think back to some of those magical moments of those games where you just felt like you were on it? Tell us kind of what was going through your head.
Yeah, I mean, I think I touched on it with having that drive and just I had a will to win that, nothing else overtook that. Even playing at, 7 assists or whatever, or you're playing against teams maybe lesser, and you're able to do things that maybe you don't get time to do in other games. But I mean, having that drive definitely pushed me on to. I've lost my train of thought, Joe.
That's all right. If I jump in for a second, so this drive you're talking about, the competitive drive, I think almost everybody in this room has it a little bit. When did that pop up? Has that been something you were born with? Was that something that, watching your dad, you saw him competing, you were like, I want to compete? Were there other mentors in your life? When did that really drive? When did your drive really take hold and start, wow, I want to win. I don't want to just run around with the boys?
Really, really young age. Yeah, I mean, I remember playing like U10 games and like being absolutely distraught after the game that we had lost, and like going home in the car and crying and different things like that, and like just hated getting beat. Just hated losing, and always wanted to be the best. And I think a large portion of it too, like in terms of your own drive to win, but I always kind of I felt a mindset that like nobody was going to outdo me. Like I would go to the ends of like, whether it was running in a race or like a 5K, like I'd run because I knew in my head that I was going to beat you.
Yeah.
You just have this very strange drive, like that you just will push you to the absolute extremes. But even what you said about how it felt and that whenever you're playing at that level or things are going good, or you're having a good game or you're having a good season or whatever, like I found in the games where I was playing well and making things happen, which was usually against you guys.
And I want to get into that, but I want to hear the rest of this thought. Yeah,
that you feel when you're playing in those games, I always felt not like an out of body experience, but you just feel like you have like limitless amount of energy. Mm-hmm. Like I could run and run and run and never be out of breath, or I could take people on, or I didn't feel nervous. You just feel like you're in this bubble, like in a zone, and you just, that's all you're thinking about is getting the ball and what you're going to do or where you have to run to, and it never felt like you had to, expend a lot of energy or be completely drained, because it just felt like you were floating through it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very strange to describe, but yeah, you just, I don't know, in your mind you're focused and you know what you're doing, but when you're playing and you're playing well and things are going really good, you just, everything else just like, it just all fades away. Yeah. And you're just, you just feel like you're floating through the game and you'll never lose energy,
So I think a lot of athletes could probably describe, in any sport, a similar state of mind that they're able to get themselves into. And some athletes refer to it. You mentioned the zone. We try to talk about being in flow state, and so it's it's getting to that present state of mind where you're not hearing anything else from the fans. You're not focused on anything else. Your attention doesn't float in and out. It is completely locked in, dialed in on what you're doing in that moment.
Yep.
Did you have anything that, can you recall that would get you into that state of mind, or did it just kind of come and go naturally for you?
I used to visualize a lot, like the day before game, or like whenever you go to bed, or maybe if we were traveling and we had a couple of hours on the bus on the morning of a game or something, I'd in my head, like whether you're listening to music or something, maybe you've got headphones in, I'd just sit there or lie there in bed and think about scenarios that would happen in games. Like I'd visualize myself going past someone, or visualize myself taking down a long ball and going, or playing a through ball or whatever it may be. And I always found that like that, just even before games, in your mind you've already been there. Mm-hmm. So you know what you're going to be doing. Mm-hmm. And I never really felt, yes, there was games where I was nervous before, and I think that's a good thing, because if you're nervous you're probably not prepared enough, or if you're not nervous you're not prepared enough. But yeah, I mean, I just never. Yeah.
Okay. So did you? I mean, so you think about some of those games where you talked about being nervous. Did you enjoy that feeling, or did it ever get to the point where it overcame you a bit?
No, I enjoyed being nervous. I think I enjoyed like having butterflies and thinking about the game and walking out and the anthem and looking at people and eyeing them up a little bit. But then you feel it, and then as soon as the whistle goes and you're in the game, it goes away.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter how, we went. An example anyway, like we went down to play Detroit, I think it was the second year, we made the regional playoffs, and there's 7,000 or 8,000 there, and I've played in front of like decent sized crowd, maybe at home, but never like that many people over here. And people,
and not just 7,000 or 8,000 people, but I mean, like energized.
Yeah, it meant something to them, singing,
yeah, absolutely,
flares and all that stuff. And
if you go find photos of the game, I mean, it is a scene. It looks like a real ruckus was happening behind
nuts.
you. Yeah.
Like, and you can't hear like your teammates or anything. And that was probably the most nervous I've been before a game, because you're playing in front of so many people and you kind of don't want to make a mistake. All these people are watching or whatever. But as soon as the whistle goes, you don't even hear them.
Yeah, is it a fearful nervous or an excited nervous?
I think a bit of both. Yeah, I mean, like, you're coming in. Whenever we played like UMAC finals or in those regional games where we go down and play in the in the tournament, like there's always a bit of fearful nervousness about what might happen in terms of like getting beat, or you don't want to give away a penalty or get sent off in my case.
Never, right?
Yeah. But then on the other side of it too, it's an excited nervousness, because you just want to get out there, you want to go and play, and then as soon as the whistle goes, like you just blank everything out. You're just ready to go, and it's just like playing in training or in the park. It doesn't matter where you are or how many people are watching. As soon as the whistle goes and you're in the game, everything else just takes a back seat.
Yeah. So as a player, one of the things that always stuck out to me as a coach too is there was a lot of passion that came out of you, right?
Yeah.
There was a lot of fire, and was that by design for you? Was that just something that came on game day, or even in training? I would notice it.
Yeah.
Is that something that you kind of like amped yourself up to have that kind of passion, or was it just kind of as soon as the whistle goes or the ball hits the turf in training, it's there?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always had it. I've never had to like think about it or say to myself in games or training, oh, you gotta like just shout something for the sake of it. I shout during games because that's all I've ever done. Yeah. And as far as like being, to me, even in training, more so in training, like if you don't train the way and with the same intensity that you do in games, you're never going to reach that level. You'll never be able to replicate it in a game. So why bother? Why for every single training session you should be going as hard as you possibly can. And if other people aren't doing it, then it's up to you to tell them to. And you have to, in order to be, I think anyway, and over the 4 years of Scholastica, I think we were pretty successful, and for the couple of years that we played at Duluth, we were successful as well. Like we were always in the top two, went to playoffs or whatever. But everybody in training, we were just so passionate and relentless. Like it didn't matter if somebody gave the ball away, you were on them. If somebody wasn't working hard enough, you were on them. If somebody made a mistake, you were on them. It's just the way it was, and I was lucky to not just be the only, because it can go wrong. Like, if you're the only one like that in the team, it might not come across very well, depending on the characters that you have. But in the teams that I was a part of, luckily enough, like everybody, or the majority of people would have been in that mindset, like to get on each other and push each other to be better and to kind of replicate how it would be in a game. And I mean, there's times like even at Scholastica, like, we've come to blows with people over a training game, over a 4v2 rondo.
So do you think that the energy that you guys all bring, I mean, I can tell you, like, I think it does it drive from the passion? Like, if you had a little less passion for soccer, do you think you'd have a little less energy during practice, or is that something that you just, like, you have to go all out everything you do, whether it's work, eating, sleeping? Like, how much of that is soccer specific as your passion, and how much of that is just you as a person?
A bit of both. I mean, I'm definitely a lot more passionate about soccer than a lot of other things, but I don't think I'd be in the position that I'm in, both like through sport and personally, without having some sort of drive. At the end of the day, like I left home when I was 18 and moved here to a completely different country and went through 4 years of school and didn't really see my parents a whole lot, and stayed and got a job off my own bat, and found a woman and married her. And I love her. Just had to put that in. But, but like all these things, like if I didn't want to make that happen, I could have went home. I could have went home after 4 years and just figured it out at home and did what everybody else was kind of doing. And I've always, ever since moving out here, I've always wanted to I've always known what I wanted to do, I think, and I've always found a way to do it. Once you make the decision, this is what you want to do, you can always find a way to do it.
Yeah. So no plumbing anymore.
No plumbing, no. Yeah, that's the pipe dream.
Yeah. That's a pun. Absolutely. Make sure we catch that, Holden. Yeah, take that one out.
So I want to get back, Sean, we're talking about where your mindset was, and it sounds like to me so much of that had to do, it was kind of a 50-50 split of what you brought through your passion, but then also the environment around you, and you talked about some of the accountability. Tell me a little bit more about just the environment that you thrived in, whether that be day-to-day training or in a match, whether that was at Scholastica, whether it was back home or be at Duluth FC. Just can you describe the environment where you thrived?
Yeah, it was always intense in training, and I mean the year before I came out here, I was training with Lisburn Distillery, was the club that I played for, and I played more or less the whole season with the reserves, but I trained with the first team, and the coach at that time, the manager, was Tommy Wright. So Tommy Wright ended up leaving the job at the end of the year and now manages St. Johnstone in the SPL, and picking up stuff from him and being in the environment that he set, I think was ideal for me at that time to push myself to be better and being in that environment. And then obviously when I moved over here, we had a really good group of boys, that were very we're all kind of from the same place in the UK or England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland, whatever it is. It's all very similar at home. And to be in, everybody has a similar mentality. So whenever they all move over here, we move to Scholastica and we're all playing and going to school, that kind of carried itself over, and we were able to kind of replicate that here and spread it to the other boys who were part of the team from different parts of the world, different parts of the States. And but I think the biggest part of it, Joe, is being disciplined. If you're coming and playing, and it doesn't matter to me what level it is, because if I'm playing tiddlywinks or I'm playing docile, I want to win, and I'm going to be disciplined enough to find a way to do it. And in training, like you'd said about holding each other accountable and things like that, the first couple of years and more or less for the whole 4, if you were late to training or you yellow cards for dissent, I had many of those, and red cards and missing games or whatever, you knew that you had messed up and you were either punished for it, and whether it was running or you had to sit a game, or Dave Robinson didn't speak to me for 6 months after I got sent off one time. Those.
Rob was the nicest guy in the world too. So if you've wronged him, you've done it, right?
Yeah, you're in trouble. But just in that environment where you knew there was consequences, but you didn't. The consequences weren't. You didn't feel them personally. You knew they were affecting everybody else too. So that made it hurt even more, which made people not want to, get in trouble or do wrong during training or whatever it may be. And I think a lot of that, just having that discipline around it, where we were there to train every day and we were going to put our heart and soul into it, or play as hard as we could for the hour and a half that we were on the field. That made a massive difference in the game. We were playing. There was a different format, so we played everybody twice, I think, in the UMAC. And obviously, there's teams that just weren't on our level. They were nowhere near it. And to be playing those types of teams every week where you knew you were going to win, and then a week later have to switch your mentality and play a MIAC team like Carlton or Gustavus that were they're quality teams, and still be able to get a result. I think that in itself is testament to the mindset and the environment that we created at Scholastica, because we were able to push each other at every single session. And yes, to an extent, yes, we might have fallen down or had a bit of bad luck, or whenever we made it to regionals where it mattered or where you felt that it mattered most. But we were always, I felt just a little bit unlucky. We just could never get over that final line, But no, playing against those, like I said, lesser teams or with all due respect to them, like, but you know, you knew you were going to win. But then to go out and play like a team of a much higher standard and still have the same drive and the same will to win and to go put the ball in the back of the net and play good football, like, it wouldn't have been possible for us to get results against those MIAC teams without being in that environment and without training the way we did and having the attitudes the way we had our attitudes, you know. And like you said, I think like discipline, having the right attitude, you know, and wanting and willing to work hard and holding each other accountable are three of the biggest things, I think, for me. You know, it's all well and good. You're like yourself or me, you have word with a kid and you tell them this or that, but when it comes from your teammate, I think it's 10 times more powerful than coming from somebody that's already holds some sort of authority over you.
Absolutely.
You know.
So if that's the case, and I 100% agree, and as a coach, I know that, you know, it's my job at times to hold guys accountable and to kind of set that standard of discipline, but my words aren't going to carry the same kind of weight as what their players' words might, you know.
Yep.
So as we look forward now in getting into the role as head coach at Duluth FC, how do you look to create that environment then as the coach?
I mean, the biggest thing I think for me is like you said, it's easy for me to stand there and tell people what I want, but unless they hold themselves to accountable and they buy in and they push each other, then you're not going to go anywhere. And what's the downside about what we have coming up is that we have such a short space of time to get people gelled and to get everybody on the same page, because I mean, they're probably only going to be in a week or two before the first game, which is like nothing. You know, it's not a lot of time to work with people. But listen, I think, you know, creating an environment where, in terms of the training, you know, everybody is well aware of the principles and the expectations that you lay out, you know, and the morals that you want to have attached to your program or your team or whatever it may be. And these are the things that you don't compromise on. So whether that's, you know, there's rules for being late to training. This is what we expect. This is what you need to do to be in line to play on a Saturday or be close to the squad. You know, whatever it is, all those things, they can't be broken. So you can't compromise on any of them, I believe. You know, and if people don't agree with them or people can't, you know, adapt to them, then that's on you, because I want you to come here and improve as a player, and I believe that I will be able to improve you as a player, and I'm telling you what we need to be successful based on my own experiences and how I've been successful in the past. And if people aren't willing to buy into that and listen to that, then you're not going places.
Right.
But I think a large portion of it, in terms of it being serious and people realizing that, you know, these are the expectations, this is the way it works, that's all well and good, but at the same time, it's a sport that's there to be enjoyed.
Yeah.
So you have to have an element of, you know, people have to be having fun. They have to be enjoying themselves with it. You know, they can't be turning up to training unhappy or not enjoying the way training is, or, you know, any number of reasons. But there has to be some sort of element of fun and an element of being disciplined and sticking true to what you believe to be right in terms of how you're going to get from point A to point B and be successful.
So one of the things I think is great about sports is that as you get from level to level, when you reach those next levels, the gap in skill and the gap in tactical ability and all those things starts to really kind of shorten, right? And so everybody's going to want to win. Everybody's going to have that drive, that passion, that hunger. So really what it comes down to, it's not so much kind of establishing, you know, the same type of principles as every other team. It might come down to more so what makes your team unique or your program unique.
Yeah.
So what do you see going forward into Duluth? What makes Duluth FC unique already? And what elements do you want to add into it that are going to make it unique?
I think over the last couple of years, and I've touched on it a lot, I think, but with the players that we have had in the years that we were successful, there was a really strong core group. And, you know, it was boys that weren't afraid to be leaders, you know, not afraid to open their mouths when something's going wrong, and, you know, could do things on the pitch when it was needed and when it mattered. And having that grit about you, and being determined to pull out results when it wasn't, maybe going to go your way. And I think that's not just the mentality that we had at that time. I think that's like, it's quite, to me, having lived here for a good number of years now, it's very much in the psyche of a lot of people up here and the area that we live in. It's damn cold in the winter and people are hard.
You have to be, right?
Yeah. And having, as a club, I think that's been there since the beginning. There's always been some sort of like steel or metal, in terms of your mindset. But one thing, obviously I want to, keep that going and keep those traits there, because I think they're really, really valuable, and it'll go a long way to making sure that we have that, we're halfway to being successful. On the other side of it, in terms of like putting my own kind of sprinkle on it, so to say, I want any team that I coach to play good football. And good football to me is playing on the ground, it's possession based, and it's attacking. And at the same time, everybody on the team or in the squad thinks similarly because of the type of training that you're doing or whatever it may be, and they're able to see the solutions. You know what I mean? So bringing that together with like the steel and being determined and having a really good team spirit, but being aware of the game and being able to play smart and make good decisions and play attractive football. Like I absolutely hate watching teams, even in the Prem, when they get a free kick on the halfway line and they load up the box and smash it 50 yards in. That makes no sense to me. So, I want to get the ball down. I know with the level of player that we're bringing in and locally, there's really good technical players. But as you said, with the gap that, gets smaller and smaller and smaller as the level goes up, to me, there's only like two things that kind of define what way a player will go, because to me you can kind of reach a peak, or everyone's at more or less the same level, but how do you stand out within that level and become better? If you can make decisions but make the right one consistently, players that make the right decision consistently, you're miles ahead. And can you process that information and think one step ahead? Because everybody physically is able to do these things, but if you can't process information quickly in your brain as the game's going on and make a quick decision to play, then you're in trouble. But that's the two biggest things for me, man, is making sure we still have that same determination and same grit and team spirit. But with the boys that are coming in individually, they're all going to be at a really good level. It's up to me to be able to get them to play attacking and attractive football and keep it on the ground and play the right way and play the way that I want them to and the way I see the game. So obviously some of that's going to come down to personnel, right? So, and we were talking just earlier about sort of the time of year that you're in, recruiting, bringing players in, and really trying to set your team. So let's rewind it. And let's say that it's day one, you just got in the job, you're going to build your team. The first player that you want to sign, if you can just kind of walk through, build that player. And obviously it's a little bit different position to position, but if, again, just the number one player that you're taking off the board that's going to come play at Duluth FC, tell us about that player. What does he look like?
What's he look like? How does he play? What's his mindset like?
Yeah.
And some of this you've touched on, but I'd love to hear just kind of, to you, what makes that quintessential perfect player for you?
Yeah. Doesn't have to be big or small. I don't think very much weighs on like the physicality. I think what I'm looking for, and hopefully what we're bringing in.
And Sean, you can't say left-footed, 145 pounds from Belfast like that.
No, I'm looking at boys that are technically good, and can go off both feet. Are comfortable, maybe they are predominantly right, but they're comfortable on their left, or vice versa. They can see a pass and play it. They've got good technical skills, right? And in addition to that, I want boys that work hard, that have good attitudes, that are willing to go the extra mile, that will do the dirty work and run up and down, and doesn't matter what it takes. You have to have a good attitude and be willing to work hard. It doesn't matter how gifted you may be. with the ball at your feet. But if you don't work hard to get in positions and don't do the dirty work, then it's irrelevant because you're not going to win games as a team. But yeah, no, boys that are comfortable, boys that think about the game as well. It's, especially nowadays, like, you can go, you see these like Coover coaching and foot skills and ball mastery and these kinds of things and all that's well and good. But if you can't see space and see spaces around and how to exploit teams and have a good understanding of the game, then it doesn't matter how many drag backs you can do if you don't understand what's going on in an 11v11 for 90 minutes. I want boys that understand different systems and, hopefully over the next 3-4 months, whenever we have them, we can open their eyes a little bit to different things or maybe change, or not so much change, but add to their perception of the game. But boys that are aware of what's going on around you and aware of space and how to exploit space. And it's not just about running up and down for 90 minutes and kicking it as hard as you can and putting lots of crosses into the box. Like, I want people that know how to play the game, can control the tempo of a game, know the positions that they need to be in, know what's expected of them in that position, but aren't afraid to be creative and improvise as well. Because there's only so much you can do in a structure. I can tell people exactly where they need to be and what they should be doing in different situations, or if we're trying to play out, this is where you go, whatever it may be. But for me, once you get past the halfway line and people get into these situations, they have to make the right decision consistently, and whether that's putting in through balls or whatever, and a lot of that is just improvisation and being creative and being able to do that, having the ability to do that. So, ultimately that's what we're looking for, I think, anyway, in the ideal player. But, I'd be happy with 11 workhorses too.
Right. So then it gets down to your purpose. So as you're building your squad, what do you think your main purpose is as their coach? Is it, and obviously it's a blend of many things, but kind of the driving purpose for you, is it as a manager? Is it as a tactician? Is it teaching them technical elements? Is it just behind the scenes manager? Is it a game day manager? What really kind of gets you fired up and gets you excited about the role?
Two things, I think. The first one being, like, anybody that comes in, and some boys I've worked with before, and the biggest thing for me, number one, I want to improve people, because most of these kids that are going to be coming, they're all still playing college ball in some way, shape or form, or maybe they're just getting out of high school and getting ready to go and play. And if I can't take you for 3 months and teach you how to be better and how to think of the game in a different way, then I haven't done my job. Because to me, if you're good enough to go and play at a college level, whether it's NAIA, D3, D2, you name it, doesn't matter, you've got the technical skills to be able to go and play football. Where people maybe fall down a little bit in terms of the coaching side, or maybe we as coaches feel, because we have a lot of constraints, time being one, how much you can fit into certain time slots per week before you have to go and play and getting people prepared. But maybe players don't know an awful lot about different systems and what is actually required to play the system well, and the pros and cons of systems and things like that. But that's not, I don't view myself as being somebody that's just going to be, moving things around on a board constantly. I like the whole way through my career, so to speak, of being a coach and coaching at Gitch and coaching at Scholastica, is I like running sessions. I like being able to put players in situations and tell them why, and get them to answer the why behind it and why they're doing things so that they understand it. Because if I pull 20 kids together and do a possession drill, but it's directional and people don't know why they're doing it, then I haven't done my job. They have to know the why behind it and how it translates into the game, So yeah, that's number one, like improving everybody that comes through the door in the 3 months that I have, send them back to college a better player. Maybe they go on and, we've had some success in the last couple of years with boys going and play USL or getting signed with pro teams, and ultimately that's the goal. If you're coming here, you obviously want to play at a higher level, and our job as coaches is to try and help you get there. And then I guess the second thing is it's a competitive league and I want to win. And that doesn't change whether I'm playing or coaching or refereeing or whatever it may be. I want to win. And I want the boys that are coming on board to know that and know how much it means to me to win and how much it means to the wider community that's involved with the club to win, and you know how much it would uplifts the soccer community in general up here whenever there's a big game on and we manage to win it. You know, it's you have to find that balance where we're bringing in some players from further afield that have never been here before, you know, and don't know the city and don't know the club and don't know what it's like. And it's my job to be able to translate all that to them in a short space of time so that they buy in and they understand what it means to people here and what it should mean to them as players. But yeah, I mean, number one, improving everybody, and then number two is I'm playing to win. You know, we're not playing just to solely, you know, help a left back become a better left back. Yes, you'll become a better left back, but we were in this environment where we're playing to win. So that's probably the two biggest things for me in the next couple of months.
Well, you'll have your work cut out for you, right? I mean, it's coming up, and like you said, I mean, you get a really short amount of time before you're off and playing.
Yeah.
And so you think it starts with that educational piece a little bit of just kind of what they are to be expecting when they get here and what it means to the area. I think it was great to hear you mention that. You know, what it means to the community, and we've seen it already, you know, just in the few short years that, you know, Duluth FC has been on the board. It really has, I think, re-energized a little bit of the soccer community in the Twin Ports, and so I think that's great to see, and hopefully those players give you that buy-in, and then like you said, it's off to improving them and improving the squad as a whole, and hopefully getting a lot of wins this summer.
That's the plan. Fingers crossed. Anyway,
yeah.
But no, I mean, we're very lucky to have a club like this up here, you know, and nobody should take that for granted. And the amount of work that people do for it on a voluntary basis and helping out and offering their time and offering up their homes and things like that, like, you know, it's not an easy thing to do for a lot of people. And we're very lucky that we, you know, have this on our doorstep where little kids are involved with GITS or ASS or AYSA or whatever, you know, they can come and watch like a good level of football. You know, they don't have to go, I mean, by all means, you know, go and watch the Loons. You know, you get to watch a pro team 100%, but, you know, this is right on our doorstep, you know, and it means a lot. I think it means a lot to people that have been around soccer in the area for a long time. And it gives kids something to aspire to, you know?
Yeah.
You get to watch a good level of football. We have the academy this year. We've got two colleges that do pretty well, UWS and Scholastica, and have done over the last 10, 15 years. And it's just bringing more awareness to it, you know? We're in the state of hockey. Yeah. We got to change the state of football.
Trying to get our market share. Yeah. You know, but I think you mentioned it too, and you know, for guys, you know, Charlie Forsyth and you know, Josh Bellamy, guys that are involved with the you know, Duluth FC, myself, we all would have loved to have something like this when we were coming through the ranks, you know. And so you're right. I think you know, the area is very fortunate to have this, and we want to certainly embrace that and hopefully continue to propel it forward. And I think, you know, when I heard the news that you were going to be signing on as the new head coach, I was excited that we've got somebody young that, you know, hopefully has some good ties to the area and, you know, can get a good start this year, but hopefully kind of take it, you know, those next steps over the next few years.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's all about progressing at the end of the day, not just on the field, but as a club, like, you know, getting more people involved and, you know, getting the little kids involved and, you know, something to aspire to. And as I said, like, people are giving up their time to come and do this, you know, to grow soccer in the area. So, you know, in terms of success on the field, great, that's what we want. But you also want the club to expand to get bigger over the next couple of years and see where we can really take it, you know. And ultimately, I think that should be the goal, you know, in the long run, to expand the club and try and do something that has some sort of longevity to it as well, and it'll be around for the foreseeable future.
Absolutely. Well, Sean, we wish you the best of luck, man. We can't wait to watch you this summer. Thanks a lot for coming on today.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. I can talk about soccer all day. I'll let Joe take the lead here, but I mean, this is a great conversation to
No, thanks very much for having me, and I really appreciate it. It's good to chat and a little bit about myself, and don't really like talking about myself too much.
We had questions designed to make sure you did just that. So. But Sean, thanks a lot, man. We're looking forward to seeing you this summer.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in to the Next Level podcast this week with Sean Morgan. We hope you all enjoyed it. Looking forward to next week when Bryan Lemmer and I will break down this conversation on the next episode of The Next Level.